Let's take a couple of minutes and we're going to walk through the subwoofer settings on your Pioneer DEH-S1000UB. Now, before we get started with the subwoofer settings, we're going to check an important setting in the initial setup menu to make sure we're all set up and ready to go. So here we're on the AM/FM radio source, but I want to switch the in-dash receiver off. So I'm going to press and hold the source button for a couple of seconds. That'll switch the receiver off. Even though I still have the clock on the screen, if I touch the display button, that'll go away. I want the radio completely switched off, but I want the vehicle powered up. Now I'm going to press in on the volume control. And I have the system menu here, and I also have the initial menu. That's the one I'm after. So let's press here. Now this tells me my speaker output and RCA output mode. That's what we're after here. So we're going to press enter. Right now I have the rear speaker outputs set to full range output, and I have the RCA output set to subwoofer output. So rear speakers set to full range, subwoofer, RCA output set to subwoofer. If I roll over with this setting, I have both the rear speaker outputs set to subwoofer out and the RCA outputs set to subwoofer out. Roll this setting over one more time. I have both the rear speaker outputs set to full range and the RCA outputs set to full range. So if I have this setting, rear full range for the speaker outputs and full range for the RCA outputs, I'll have no subwoofer control in the system. So I want to make sure that I have subwoofer setting in at least one of these. So right now this is my rear speaker output set to full range and the RCA outputs set to subwoofer because I'm going to use an external amplifier for this system. All right, once I'm done with that, I can just press the source button. That'll take me out to the radio or whatever source you want to go to. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to press in on the volume control, and I want to roll along here until I find the audio menu. Here's the audio menu. That's the one we want. We'll press enter. Now let's roll along here until we find the subwoofer settings. Here you can see the subwoofer is switched off. Now if I roll past this, it goes straight to bass boost, and there are no other subwoofer settings to be found here. So I have to make sure that I have the subwoofer output switched on. Once I have the subwoofer switched on, I have my choice between the normal output or a reverse output. So reversing the phase of the output on your sub can dramatically change the way it sounds in your vehicle. You should try both of these settings, both normal and reverse. So I'm going to leave this as the subwoofer output switched on and in its normal phase for right now. Let's roll over to the next setting, which is our subwoofer controls, and we'll press enter. The first thing we see here flashing is the crossover frequency for the subwoofer output. And I have a number of different choices here. I can choose 50 hertz, 63 hertz, 80, 100, 125, 160, or all the way up to 200 hertz. Now this is the crossover filter that will let only the low frequencies pass through. So we're going to choose to set this at about 63 hertz for right now, and we'll press enter. Next, I get to choose my boost or cut for the subwoofer output. I can make the subwoofer output a little higher or a little lower based on this setting here. So for right now, I'm going to have this set at a -2, and I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to change the slope of the subwoofer crossover. I have my choice between 12 or 24 dB per octave, again at that crossover frequency of 63 hertz. So I'll choose 24 dB per octave at that particular crossover frequency, and we'll press enter. That brings me back around. Now I can go back and roll over to the next setting, which is the bass boost. I can choose to add a little more bottom into the system here or roll that back down. I'm going to set that at 0 for right now. We'll go back and roll over to the next setting, which is our high-pass filter settings. The low-pass filter settings are what we did for the subwoofer output. High-pass filter settings are what we'll do for the speaker level outputs that are not subwoofer output. And we can choose a crossover frequency here. All the same crossover frequencies, 50, 63, 80, 100, 125, up to 160, and up to 200. And we can choose a crossover slope as well. So I'm going to choose 12 dB per octave as my slope, and I'm going to choose 80 hertz as the crossover point. Once you're done making those adjustments to your sub, you can press the band button to escape.